We're joined in this hour, or this half hour, I should say, by Josh Ellis, who's with Reopen Illinois and the protests going on. Josh, good morning to you.
Good morning.
And I guess the first question would be, what would you like to see happen in Illinois?
Quite honestly, I'd like to see the executive orders that are unconstitutional canceled.
We've seen a couple of protests here in Springfield already. One was somewhat of a spontaneous gathering of about 4 or 5 people on Thursday, and then I saw social media include a couple of different groups, not just across the country, but here in Illinois. You're with the group Reopen Illinois. Tell me about the genesis of this and how quickly you think it grew in just a matter of days since last week.
Well, we're actually with a much larger group that I'm running called American Revolution 2.0. That's a nationwide protest that is scheduled for May 1st. Across every state, nearly every state capital. Some have slight variance just depending on their own state. Illinois had a fairly large group already going called Reopen Illinois. We merged here in Illinois. They came in with us. And together, we're over 11,000 people in the group right now.
Wow. And what are you seeing as far as, I guess, the enthusiasm, if that's one way you want to put it, inside this group?
There's a lot of enthusiasm. I mean, some of it's a little over enthusiastic, but it's amazing to me to see the amount of people that are standing up and speaking loudly about their constitutional freedoms and that they respect them and they want to maintain them.
Josh Ellis. Go ahead, Josh.
So I was just going to say that's mainly what the movement is about. Our message is we are responsible American citizens for the Constitution.
Josh Ellis is with us from Reopen Illinois on News Talk 94.7 and 970 WMAY. Josh, what is your assessment of Governor Pritzker and how he's handled this situation so far? And what do you say to the medical experts that say that social distancing and what we're doing right now is helping the situation?
Oh, I have no doubt of that. And that's, quite frankly, I think other than the unconstitutional mandates that have come down, management hasn't been that bad. The issue I have is operating within the confines of the freedoms and rights that we are given. The one drawback is that the Constitution offers all of us rights, and it's the one document that allows us the freedoms that we should have. And that's why, at our protest, different from many that have gone on before, we actually are practicing 6-foot social distancing. We are recommending that everybody wear a mask, highly recommending that. So we're not, deniers of the coronavirus. We simply are people who are for our constitutional rights and believe that it's our responsibility to take care of our health and take care of our neighbors, not the government.
Josh Ellis is joining us. He's with Reopen Illinois. You're an Illinois resident, but you're also part of a larger national group, American Revolution 2.0. What would you, if you were able to sit down across the table from Governor Pritzker, what would you say to him right now?
What I would say is, first off, like I said, we need to lift the unconstitutional mandates. But really, this thing should have been about education from the beginning. And that's one of the main problems here is, like our group, we had a large Facebook page where, that's primarily what I talked about, is educating other people about this. Because a lot of Americans are afraid, a lot of Illinoisans are afraid right now of this thing. And there are steps you can take, very simple and easy steps you can take to protect yourself. And quite frankly, the lockdowns, the shelter-in order, the closing of certain businesses but not others, it does not protect you. You go to the grocery store, you grab the handle on the dairy aisle, refrigerator door there, you potentially could get this thing because it lasts on surfaces. So, in that, you still need to protect yourself, and it should have been about education. It should have been about helping people calm down and relax. And be safe. It should not have been about ordering them into their homes.
Josh Ellis is with us from the Reopen Illinois protest on News Talk 94.7 and 970 WMAY. I don't know, Josh. I think there was education going off for the point. I mean, what more could President Trump and Governor Pritzker have done to educate the Illinois? I mean, they've been talking about the things that you brought up since the beginning.
Well, there's also been a lot of misinformation, and media in general, when you watch like the briefings, they're busy attacking Trump on things. You know, they're arguing about whether he should have shut the border to China or not, calling him a racist. I mean,
where is this on some of the governor's briefings or on the television, on the media television?
No, I mean, you've got there was a tweet that came out from Chuck Schumer right away, Nancy Pelosi. You know, a lot of those leading figures were busy calling him a racist for trying to protect things off the bat and taking the story off of education. So that's what I'm talking about, is the story should have been just about education. And, I mean, I'm curious, quite frankly, when the media is going to stop doing that and just say, look, sir, how can we help? We're in the middle of a national emergency. How can we help you help our viewers?
Well, wow. Anyway, Josh Ellis is with us on News Talk 94.7 and 970 WMAY. I mean, what you're saying, Josh, I think would make sense on a national level, but on the local level, media-wise, people are helping out a ton. I mean, it's not just our station. It's like there's tons of stations that are helping to get things going at the grassroots level. I mean, a national media thing is one thing, but I think, when you paint the brush of media, we all get painted in that, and I think the local media has done a pretty good job. I'll defend what they've done. I don't think they've done any fear-mongering or anything. It's all been about information and making a decision.
And that I agree on. The one thing I would say is also you have organizations that are telling people kind of misinformation. When you're telling somebody that they shouldn't wear a mask, it comes across as a little confusing. The statement shouldn't be you shouldn't wear a mask. Masks actually do work. There's a reason that when you go to the hospital, a doctor is wearing a mask. There is a proper way to use a mask that eliminates the chances of spreading it. Same with gloves. Gloves do work, but there's a correct way to do it. And a lot of times that message doesn't really get across. You can't take and wear a pair of gloves as a grocery clerk all day long. All you're doing is transferring the virus potentially on the gloves. They do nothing to stop the spread of it. When you're wearing them all day long, they're supposed to be single use. Same with the mask. If you're constantly touching the mask, it doesn't work. That's the big thing. And just a regular pleated doctor's mask is less effective. It's not ineffective. It's just less effective than an N95. Same with just a bandana. Just throwing a bandana across your face gives you a little more protection. It's not as effective as an N95 mask. An N95 mask blocks 95% or more of all particulates all the way down to 0.3 microns. And just for comparison's sake, the average human hair is about 100 microns thick, and we're talking about 0.3.
Josh Ellis with Reopen Illinois joining us. You got protests planned for Chicago and here in Springfield, May 1st. Is that... Will that wrap up? Will that not happen if the governor doesn't extend his orders, or are you anticipating the governor is going to extend those orders?
I mean, I'm anticipating that he is going to extend those orders, and that's the funny thing is, I was talking to a lawyer friend of mine. Technically, his orders have been invalid since, according to that lawyer, April 7th. That's when the 30-day mark of his emergency powers ended. So without the legislative body coming in and changing the law, he no longer has those powers. They are simply recommendations.
Well, and from my understanding, he can reissue another emergency declaration in 30-day increments, but that'll be for the lawyers and the legislature to battle out. So, but it sounds like one of the main things you're pushing here is not necessarily, and I'm sure that you want to see the economy open back up, but it's also about asserting your constitutional rights. Would you like to see, I know some states have spelled out that certain activities, if they fall under the First Amendment rights of free assembly or, religious gatherings or things along those lines, if they fall under those parameters, they're allowed because they're constitutional rights. Do you want to see something like that here in Illinois, that where the governor may, extend the emergency, stay-at-home orders, but modify it a bit to allow for for people to go to church, to allow for people to, have certain free assembly gatherings and whatnot. What would you like to see the governor do with any kind of stay-at-home order modifications?
Well, even a stay-at-home order, I mean, the First Amendment religious protection was one of the clearest violations, and that is not a nationwide thing. There are certain states who have not done that. They have said that churches are exempt, which would have been the correct thing to do. But also, you have the stay-at-home order being essentially a house arrest, and you have basically violation of due process under the Fifth Amendment then. So you're telling people that they have to stay at home because a virus is not a crime. You can't punish people and tell them that they can't do this. You can't tell certain businesses that they're allowed to stay open and others are not. For example, a restaurant, my father-in-law owns a restaurant. They are constantly cleaning down surfaces. They are constantly taking the dishes immediately into the back. How are you less likely to catch a disease in a place that cleans constantly than you are at a grocery store that typically doesn't? The grocery cart, you're going to get it. Standing when early on there was no 6-foot separation. Plus you've got, all the surfaces you touch in there. Those aren't cleaned down constantly. What's the difference between that and a restaurant who actually does clean?
Yeah, all good points, Josh. Listen, we're out of time, but thank you so much for that, and good luck on your protest May 1st. Protest May 1st.